To say the Uzi is one of the most recognizable submachine guns ever made, in my opinion, is a vast understatement. I would venture as far to say that the Uzi is one of the most iconic and recognizable guns ever made. When you consult my list of guns that basically everyone knows about because, I don't know, maybe they saw it in a movie or played Call of Duty for more than 10 minutes, it usually goes as follows. AR-15, AK-47, Glock, and then people just kind of cram the Uzi and Mac in the same box here, which I'll talk about later. So needless to say, the Uzi is famous as fuck. But why? Well, to find that out, we need to move on to the part where... It's necessary this time, I promise. So the year is 1923 and some European Jewish family just had a fucking cool-ass baby boy we would know as UZI Gall. UZI was born in Weimar, Germany, and he would live here for a decent portion of his childhood. Until... What, you really didn't see this coming? That's okay, I also failed history class. Some asshole art school dropout was elected Chancellor of Germany and now nobody can have nice things anymore. So as a preemptive measure, his family packed everything up, leaving his home and foreskin behind in search of a better life, where they ended up in the land of the tea and home of the safe, Britain. But his time there would be rather short because they would move again in 1936 to British-mandated Palestine, whatever the fuck that is. I also failed geography class. Now this was a good judgment call on their behalf because Nazi Germany and the impending war would begin spreading rapidly, like a virus. Or your mom. Now, British-mandated Palestine is where UZI would live for the remainder. So the British mandate of Palestine would be where UZI lived for the remainder of his childhood and throughout his adolescence and early adulthood. Now, I'm going out on a limb and assuming that it was during his time there he found his love for firearms and firearms technology because shit, clearly it happened at some point. I swear to God, I searched this guy's Wikipedia page for at least 2 minutes in the first paragraph and couldn't find that info anywhere. So moving forward a little bit, we're now creeping into the early 1940s, and it's at this point in UZI's life, fate would intervene, the stars would align, and he would finally get arrested for illegal firearm possession. It's fine. They let him out early for good behavior. He wasn't hurting anybody, he just likes guns a lot and happened to get his hands on a spicy one. So after his release, we're looking in the mid to late 1940s, and the British Mandate of Palestine had just become the newly declared State of Israel. Now, obviously, I'm not an expert on historical geopolitical conflicts, but everybody and their brother knows that when Israel was first founded, they already had enemies from the very beginning, and that was causing issues. And up to this point, this particular region of the world was using whatever the hell they could get their hands on when it came to their weaponry, mostly consisting of imported World War II surplus that, quite frankly, was already outdated by the time they got it, with few exceptions. And with the looming situation of, Mamma mia, that's a spicy border, being what it was, the need for domestically produced weapons was pretty obvious. Because obviously, it's not a very good idea having your main supply of weaponry being imported when you're constantly warring with your next door neighbors. Big shocker. So by the time 1948 rolls around, UZI had already been enlisted by the IDF, or Israeli Defense Forces, and they contracted him to help develop some domestic weaponry. In his case specifically, a submachine gun. Big shocker, once again. Now they would have a small grocery list of requirements for this submachine gun, and they would include compact overall size, lightweight, we're talking 1940s lightweight, so the bar is still pretty low. And the most notable one is they wanted the magazine housed in the grip, just like a pistol. Now one of the more attractive features of doing this is removing the necessity for a mag well in front of the trigger guard. This will allow you to recede the barrel further into the firearm, also allowing you to utilize John Browning's telescoping bolt concept, which allows you to have a full-length barrel and a full-weighted bolt, which is important for SMGs, without compromising the length and compactness of the firearm. The second benefit that most people talk about is the ability for your hands to naturally meet each other. Now, of course, this is more of an ergonomics concern, but it absolutely would help a soldier reload, unload, or manipulate the weapon should they be in the dark or where vision's obscured by something like sand or, I don't know, a pair of Arabian goggles. Wow, that was fucking easy. Now, obviously, militaries need more than just a submachine gun to fully function, so throughout history, from that point to today, there would be several firearms produced by the State of Israel, some of which you may actually recognize. The 9mm Uzi submachine gun, God, were you guys even listening? The 5.56 Galil assault rifle, the 5.56 Tavor assault rifle, and the, Cowboy Bebop gun! And on that note, in 1951, the reluctantly named Uzi submachine gun, after UZI himself, would be adopted into service. Yes, the Uzi has been around that long. Surprise! What you thought was a hot piece from the 80s is actually over 70 years old. Like your mom. Now, Uziel himself pleaded to not have the gun directly named after himself, but the best thing they could do was simply shorten it to Uzi, because fuck you, buddy, this is your legacy now. And so it would be, even after his unfortunate passing in 2002. Uziel would spend a decent portion of his career further developing the Uzi and its variants, and also collaborating with other firearms manufacturers to create Uzi derivatives. Did you know that Uziel actually collaborated with the guys at Ruger to make an Uzi variant? Oh, you didn't? Well, neither did Bill Ruger, so that shit got shut down real quick. Because FUDs have to ruin everything, god damn it. Okay, so now we're caught up on the where, when, and why the Uzi is a thing. But why did we in the US like this gun so much on the other side of the planet before the immaculate conception of the internet? 3 decades after the Uzi's initial adoption, no less. Allow me to explain. So militarily, the Uzi would quickly start gaining a reputation for being simple, robust, and easy to use. Like your mom. And not surprisingly, it didn't take long for other nations to start catching wind of the Uzi's existence. Specifically, Western European countries. Did you know that Germany was a fairly prominent user of the Uzi? They called it the MP2, but otherwise it was just an Israeli Uzi. And they remained in service with their tanks and vehicle crews until 2007 when it was replaced by the H&K MP7, which is pretty impressive. I know, it took all the minds at H&K's Kraut Space Magic division to finally make something worth toppling the Uzi off its throne. Once again, fairly impressive. But to me personally, the MP7 just looks like a more futuristic Uzi that happens to shoot a swarm of angry bees, so I'm okay with that. So moving forward in the timeline just a little bit, the Uzi has now had plenty of opportunities and time to get into foreign militaries and security forces. And right now we're looking at 1981, exactly 30 years after the Uzi's introduction, and oh my god, someone just shot Ronald McDonald! I mean Reagan! Did I mention I failed history class? And what's this? Mr. Secret Service guy just reached out and pulled a cool exotic SMG from under his blazer, and it fucking folds? Sweet baby Jesus, soldier of fortune, take my money. And to the eyes of the public, the cat was officially, oh shit, never mind. Anybody that wasn't already aware of the Uzi's existence just got a front row seat to what many consider to be the genesis of a pop culture icon. From that point forward, it was movies, merchandise, video games, and more movies, all with Uziel's Hebrew hammer taking center stage. Now obviously this did wonders for the Uzi's popularity, and of course, sales. Remember, this is before 1986, so you could just buy a brand new fully automatic machine gun at the cost of a Form 4, clean background, and a firm handshake basically. But even after that, semi-automatic Uzis, like mine, would continue to be sold for many years. Oh, I'm sorry, did I disappoint you with the fact that this isn't a machine gun? Well, how the hell do you think I feel about it? You see this? You see this shit? Compromise and coping. But at least I'm willing to admit it. So now with this pop culture explosion paired with the fact that Uzis were incrementally being phased out of mainstream military service after 3 decades, the Uzi's reputation started to take somewhat of a turn. What was once considered a strong and reliable military submachine gun started being perceived as the bullet hose of choice for gangsters, drug dealers, and thugs that like to hide automatic weapons in their assholes, just in case the cops show up, you know? Or you happen to watch too many of my videos. Thanks for 1,000 subs, by the way. And secondly, this is my own personal opinion, so please take it with a grain of salt, but I think another culprit of the shift in the Uzi's representation is partially due to the less elegant American Mac submachine guns that were also growing in popularity around the same time. I mean, if you really think about it, to the average person or movie prop specialist, those two guns are basically identical, and they are frequently mistaken for one another. And I know that for a fact because, well, that was me! I didn't fucking know the difference between the two of them before I got into all this bullshit. And if you're considering the later mini and micro Uzis, the waters get muddier from there. I mean, come on, you gotta admit that both guns just look like a goddamn angry box on a stick. Now, as far as handling goes, the Uzi is a slow-firing, deliberate, and controllable submachine gun, with a fire rate at around 600 rounds per minute. I myself had the wonderful privilege to actually fire a full auto Uzi on one occasion, and I can attest that is true. It's a very sweet, flat-shooting submachine gun. But the Mac and its variants start at around 1100 to 1200 rounds per minute. That's already double the fire rate of the Uzi. And as somebody that's fired both guns on full auto, I can say with full confidence that Macs are much harder to control in their base configuration. Due to that really high rate of fire, lack of a handguard or foregrip, a set of crude simplistic sights that are more of a suggestion than anything else, and this oversimplified, crude, wobbly, wire collapsing stock. And this weird hunk of space junk is simply an aftermarket 16-inch semi-automatic carbine. This is not how Macs looked in the 80s at all. Is that an FAL grip? Now don't get me wrong, Macs are not garbage guns by any means, but they are absolutely more of an expert's weapon that require a lot more discipline to handle. Now obviously that's not the case anymore due to the wonderful and recent aftermarket that the Mac has offered to it. Any of you fellow Mac nerds that were looking over my shoulder may have realized I had the 5.56 Lage upper receiver on my full auto M10. Definitely something that warrants a video on its own in the future. Jesus Christ. Okay guys, enough blabbing and storytelling, let's take an actual look at my Uzi on the tabletop in typical gun-tuber fashion and go over some of the more notable features. Alright dudes, coming at you live, Century UC9 on the tabletop, Chodes and Chodettes, this is a 9mm, second kind of cool POU, carbine, Uzi in the house, let's throw this shit away. Get started on everything else right here. Shitty broken watch, I've had some... Okay guys, I'm going to make this really sweet and simple. This is an 8.5 inch long threaded barrel. Uzis typically have a 10.2 inch long barrel with no threading on it. Moving slightly over to your right, this is the barrel nut, and it uses coarse threads and a clever ratcheting system to be nice and secure while also being easily removable. This is also the mounting platform for Uzi silencers, if you have one. The silencer simply replaces the barrel nut, threading over top of the muzzle and engages this spring-loaded plunger, which makes for a very secure mount and a cool presentation. Up top here is my only other aftermarket upgrade. This is a low-profile left side charging handle. Uzis will normally have this knurled ambidextrous knob up top, but this one was sharper than shit and I was tired of slicing my hands open on it. This entire lower assembly is completely stock. You've got the grips made of textured plastic just like the handguards, your safety selector, and your magazine release. The standard capacity is 32 rounds, but this 25 round German magazine fits in frame much better. Now all Uzis have grip safeties like this one because open bolt SMGs tend to be a hazard when you drop them. If this is not being actively squeezed, the entire gun locks up, ideally preventing accidental discharges. Are you seriously concerned about the trigger on this thing? Just set your expectations realistically and you'll find it's just fine. It's a 70-year-old submachine gun, not a $3,000 2011. Here's that nice spongy take-up, a nice defined wall, and it breaks clean with a shitload of sloppy over travel. Very nice! Now the sights are great, but a little overkill for a submachine gun in my opinion. Your rear sight consists of a tiny peep aperture that my broken shitty eyes have a hell of a time using. It's also flip adjustable from 100 to 200 meters, and I just broke a nail. And the stock. This, my friends, is what gives the Uzi most of its iconic silhouette. My script is in the shot again. It's a quick deploy collapsing stock made of sheet metal. To use it, simply aim for the butt and karate chop that bitch at a downward angle. This will unlock the whole assembly, and from there you can simply grip it and rip it. Now when it comes to military folding stocks, this is one of the better ones. Solid lockup, no rattling whatsoever, and it has a comfortable length of pull for a 6-foot tall king such as myself. Sure, it looks crude, but it's comfortable, and the claims that this stock is painful to use and cuts your face open is mostly an exaggeration. To put the stock away, simply pinch this spring-loaded button, which allows the entire assembly to pivot freely. Squeeze these two bars and rotate it slightly upward. From that point forward, you can simply fold it underneath like so and slam the butt plate home. And there you go. Now the metal stock is super cool and makes me feel like a guy that doesn't look like a stack of pancakes, but most Uzi owners agree that this wooden stock is much better. And I agree. Sorry guys, I'm with the Fuds on this one. And god damn it, it doesn't fit in frame anymore. Now Uzis were actually issued with these wooden stocks for the first couple of years of service, but I'm assuming they put that to an end because of cost and manufacturing issues. At least from my experience, that's typically why people move away from wooden furniture. But honestly, I usually just leave the metal folding stock on though, because let's be real guys, half the reason we buy these cool guns is for other people's enjoyment. And from my experience, nobody even knows this is an Uzi unless it has this stock on it. And there's one little fun trick I saved for you guys in case you think this configuration would suck for transport or storage because it doesn't fold. Allow me to blow your fucking mind. And of course, you can shoot the Uzi just like this to your heart's content. And when you've met your monthly quota of 80s action hip firing, you can simply take the stock, line this thing back up like so, and push it back into place. Just like that. Alright guys, let's head on back to wrap this up and give some final thoughts. Because quite frankly, this video has been taking forever and I needed to wrap this shit up so I can start editing. You know, I'm not gonna lie you guys, this video was a massive pain in the ass to make, but I'm glad I did it at this point because it really helped me relearn my love for the Uzi. Ugh, I got cat hair in my nose. It has been far too long since this thing has come out to the range with me. I even had the opportunity to share the Uzi with my lovely wife who never really gets to shoot that much, and this is what she had to say about it.
Let's go ahead and set it on the table. What'd you think?
That's cool.
It's cool. And what a perfect way to summarize the Uzi. It doesn't matter what your preferences or background or level of experience is, whether you're a military buff, history nerd, 80s fanatic, gamer, rap fan, or action movie junkie, everybody knows the Uzi. So tell me, what was your introduction to the Uzi? What really made it stand out in your mind as the iconic weapon it remains to be today? As always, I'm looking forward to your comments. I hope you enjoyed, and take care.